Morning, everybody. It's Hump Day, Wednesday. It's your boy, Big Lloyd Dotson. I want to welcome you to today's Bigg's Morning Motor Vehicle Musings. That's right, it's your boy, Big Lloyd Dotson. Everyone calls me Big, and I come to you every Monday through Friday on these morning musings, sitting in my car here before I go into the gym to share a little motivation with you, maybe share some introspective, hopefully, to help you start to better utilize your natural abilities, talents, gifts, and learn how to share them with the world. And today's topic is no different. So if you're joining me this morning, make sure you shout your boy Big out. Say hello. Pop into the comments there who you are, where you're dialing in from. Let me shout you out as well before we get started here, because again, when I get going, a lot of times it's hard for me to see who's popping in and acknowledging you. So I'll do that up front in most cases. I'll catch people occasionally while I'm talking. But good morning, Stephanie. So glad you could join me this morning, because this morning we're talking all about boss talk. Boss talk. That's right. This morning's talk is all about how to become a leader of your own life and business, and at the same time benefit others around you. And you can do it in 3 simple steps. So good morning again. It's your boy Big Lloyd Dotson. Everyone calls me Big. Thanks for joining me. I see a bunch of you popping on now. Make sure you follow etiquette, which means if you're on here live and joining me, you got to say hello. You got to shout me out in the comments. Let me know where in the world you're dialing in from so I can shout you out as well before I really dig deep into this topic. And it's a topic I think all of you are going to enjoy. And as always, I always give references to anything I talk about inside my talk so that you can go after you watch this, go back to the replay or that type of thing, and go check out those references, those books, those videos, those quotes that I talk about in the lives, because that's the idea. The idea is to get you thinking about how you can be better today than you were yesterday. And one of the great ways to do that is to continue to gain skills, to continue to gain knowledge. I mean, that's the beauty of what we were given up here, is the ability to work on being better by gaining more knowledge and power. Good morning, Anthony. So glad you could join me, brother. So like I said, this morning's talk with all of you before I get into the gym there and get my day started, all right, is boss talk. And it's how to become a leader of your own life and business and benefit others around you, and do it in 3 simple steps. And so I wanted to get right into that with all of you. You see, because when you make that decision, all right, to be the boss of your own life, and maybe you go further and you decide that you want to be a leader in this internet and network marketing business, how do you go about doing it? And the reason I'm talking about it this morning is because I got a couple of people that talked to me, sent messages and all based on some of my other lives, and they're just wondering, how do you step into a leadership role? Good morning, Tiffany. So glad you could join me. How do you step into a leadership role? Well, a lot of people say that people are born natural leaders. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think leaders are molded. I think leaders are people who who look to find themselves in a situation, but there's something that happens along the way. Whether it's they are dealing with something, whether it's they're making a choice to be a leader, I don't think leaders are naturally born. Now, you're going to get a lot of people out there argue with me. See, because when it comes down to it, all right, being the boss of your own life or stepping into the role as a leader when it comes to your business, all right, there is no perfect way to do it. Because there are leaders that are quiet. There are leaders that are boisterous, like myself. There are leaders that are more do than show, But I will tell you there are 3 tips I'm going to give you on today's live that are going to cover areas that I think are areas you might want to check out improving on. If you truly want to step into being able to do boss talk, if you will, stepping into that leadership role to become the leader in your own life and business, and like I said, benefit others around you. And these are the 3 tips that I want you to look into. And like I said, they may not be for everyone, but one of the main things that I've learned from working with, studying, interviewing, talking to all types of leaders, when you become a leader, you not only need to know how to be a leader, but you need to know and learn how to communicate like one. You see, now, by saying that phrase, a lot of you are probably going to run off and go, oh my God, communication, that means I got to be able to speak and all. Absolutely. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, okay, yes, there are leaders that can lead by doing. But ultimately, right, you also have to lead by telling people what you're going to do and then do it. So again, good morning. I'm glad you're all jumping on here. This is Boss Talk. How to become a leader of your own life and business and benefit others around you in 3 simple steps. So if you're hopping on, say good morning to your boy Bigg. Shout me out. Let me know where you're dialing in from. Angela, so glad you're joining me. Kelly, so glad you're joining me. Matthew, brother, so glad you're joining me. And like I said, the one thing that most people, right, are not born with, all right, and there is no natural leadership quality, is something that everyone can work on. And that's learning how to communicate like a leader. Learning how to communicate like a leader. You see, and that all comes from projecting confidence in your own abilities to be able to succeed. See, and here's the thing. A lot of people will reach out to me, right? And they'll say, but I don't know what my skills and abilities are. We all have them. You can hone those skills and abilities, make them sharper. I talk about it all the time. How can you be better today than you were yesterday? And you do that by, guess what? Working on those skills and abilities that you have, honing those, gaining more knowledge and power. But one of the best things that you can do for yourself in order to find more success, in order to become a boss of your own life and business, is to learn better communication skills. And that's taught. That's learned. That is not something anyone is born with. And it all is based on projecting confidence in you as a person. So I'm going to cover 3 tips today. Good morning, our vendor. So glad you could join me. I'm going to cover 3 tips today, and I want you to write these down and reference back to them, because I'm going to help you be able to not only know what those 3 tips are, but be able to go back and look at ways that you can start to build on those tips in order to help yourself learn to communicate like a boss of your own life. And once you do that, you can step into the role of leadership and learn to communicate like one too. All right? So if you want to start to learn boss talk, now when I'm talking boss, I'm not talking about your manager that basically clocks in and clocks out. When I talk boss talk, I'm talking about someone who steps up into the role of taking control of their life. Boss talk, your life. Taking control of your business. And the 3 tips I'm going to share with you are going to help you do that. And the very first one, okay, is that when you are speaking to people, all right, and you're trying to get things done, you want to get to the point. So if you'll notice what I did, I reiterated, okay, what the talk was about, all right, in this case. And now I'm going to let you know that what you want to do is let people know what you're going to talk about. Okay, talk about it and then reiterate it once again. You see, when you want to make connections with people, all right, and you want to connect with your audience, you need to make your case compelling. So you need to be able to see if there's a connection there, all right, by putting out, okay, that verbiage or that question, okay, about your topic or whatever, just like I did, to see if people are interested in it. Okay? What that also allows you to do is it allows you not to only intrigue people, but be upfront about what you're going to be speaking about. You see so many people out there, when they have an opportunity to speak to people, they don't make a connection first. They just speak over people. You ever notice those people, right? That they just basically keep going no matter what. There's no connection. There's no eye connection. There's no cadence or anything like that. You see, and here's the thing. Throw out your pre-prepared speeches, your PowerPoints, all that type of stuff. You're never going to learn to naturally connect with your audience. You're never going to naturally connect with your people if you're relying on those crutches all the time. You've seen so many people out there rely on PowerPoint. And I'm not saying it's not a great thing to have. but it's also a crutch. So many people do prepared speeches and they sound like they're a robot going on and on and on. So here's what you need to do, all right? You need to get to the point, but you also need to be natural about it. I speak about it all the time. People want to connect with real people. People want to do business, right? And be associated with people they know, like, and trust. So using your natural voice to communicate, all right, is a better way to become a leader. But it does mean that you have to learn how to communicate. You do have to learn how to speak, to do lives, to do videos. I've spoken all about it all the time, okay? The bottom line is get to the point. Let people know what you're going to talk about. So that's the first tip, all right? And again, don't rely so much on PowerPoints and things like that, all right? A lot of you will know, all right, that I write down a lot of stuff as far as notes or points to get to when I do these lives, because that's when I want to stay on track. But I'm not sitting there reading them verbatim, right? It's not a prepared speech. It's notes and references and things like that. That's the same thing. So number one, get to the point, do away with those prepared speeches, and that comes from practice, right? That comes from knowledge. That comes from learning. And that comes from making yourself be better, because if you want to eventually be a boss of your own life and business and learn boss talk, because that's what it is. That's what leadership entails, okay? Talking the talk and walking the walk. Now, here's one of the most important tips I can give all of you, and people pay thousands of dollars for this tip right here to learn this at speaking groups, at coaching, consultations, things like that. And that is the number two. And this is what you'll start to notice is some of your best speakers, some of your best CEOs, some of your best leaders out there in the business world. Politicians are fantastic at this, all right? But some of your best leaders out there, the second tip I'm going to give you is they speak in threes. Speak in threes, all right? Good morning, Dennis. So glad you could join me. Thank you for that, Arvinder. I appreciate it. They speak in threes. Now, if you want to convince people as a leader, when you're doing a presentation, when you're doing a meeting, all right, you want to break down your message into 3 points. And you guys will notice I did that in the introduction, and I'm going back to it. And what do I mean by that, all right? You want to break down the message into 3 points. It's kind of like that quote, you know, government by the people, of the people, for the people. Government by the people, of the people, for the people, right? So there's that cadence, right? People, 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 all right? So what do I mean by this, all right? Let me break it down for you further, all right? So that you can do a little more research, because this is important. When you're speaking, when you're starting to learn boss talk, leadership talk, all right? Speaking in 3 parallel words or phrases or clauses is actually an ancient Roman rhetorical process, okay, called a tricolon. You can look that up, Tricolon, okay? It's a rhetorical device, like I said, that was used to learn speaking. Because if you remember back in those days, speeches and or theater was given in big amphitheaters, right? And in order to get the point across, this is what they learned was most effective. And it's still a device that's used by some of the top speakers and leaders today. So what do I mean by that? Speaking in threes. Now, again, you want to write this down. I'm going to give you some references to this because it's an amazing tip, but a powerful, powerful thing to learn how to do. And it doesn't take a lot to learn it, all right? What you do is you basically put your argument or your presentation in threes, okay? It makes it more compelling, more convincing, more credible. See what I did there? More compelling, more convincing, more credible. You see, people remember threes. People remember subconsciously threes or things that are connected like that. So if you want more information and you want to see a perfect way to do it, all right, Simon Lancaster, S-I-M-O-N, last name Lancaster, Lancaster, who's written dozens and dozens of speeches for political figures and big business leaders, did a TED Talk, TEDTALK. You can look those up on YouTube. He did a TED Talk called Speak Like a Leader. And in there, he gives amazing tips and overview on how you can go about working this speaking in threes into building yourself into a leader of your own business, but also your own life. Because, again, whether it's an argument, whether it's a pitch, whether it's a meeting, it works very well. It's extremely effective, and that's why the majority of people that have success in business and politics and all use it all the time. Obama was famous for speaking in threes. Famous. And some of his speeches are considered some of the best political speeches out there. So that's Simon Lancaster. He did a TED Talk. You can find it on YouTube called Speak Like a Leader. You see, what it comes down to is this, all right? What it comes down to is this. The first time that you say something, it's an incident. The second time you say something, it's a coincidence. But the third time you say something, it's a pattern. You see, and we as human beings pick up on, and actually we recognize patterns. You see, and that's the thing that you have to learn, to be able to speak in patterns, to make a compelling argument in patterns, hence speaking in threes. So as you all know, I love research, I love science, and it's been proven time and time again. So make sure you check out that TED Talk from Simon Lancaster. Great, great stuff on how to speak like a leader, all right? Finally, I said I had a third tip for you on Boss Talk, on how to be a leader of your own life and business and benefit not only you, but others around you, and do it in those 3 simple steps. So we covered the first one. And if you guys will give me some feedback here, what was the first tip that we covered in this 3 simple steps to Boss Talk? Go ahead and pop it into the comments. What was the first one? And then we'll move on from there. Anyone want to help me out? What was the first tip that I gave you? If you give it to me, then I can get to the point. That's right. The first was get to the point. Basically, let people know what you're going to speak about so that you can begin to speak about it. All right. The second we just covered, which was speak in threes. And that simply just, convincing people through research that shows, all right, that leadership speak is really breaking it down and putting your message into 3 points. Okay. 3 points or a pattern of points. Now, the third is probably the most important. And it's why people talk about keeping your speaking engagements or your speeches or that type relatively short. Not so short that you can't, 1, get to the point, 2, that you can't speak in threes. But the third most important is, and I've spoken about this on lives before. Good morning, Mark. So glad you could join me, brother. And that is, we've been given 2 ears and 1 mouth. The problem is, when you learn to speak effectively, when you learn this boss talk, all right, some people start to go overboard. And that is that they do too much talking. So if you're going to learn boss talk, you're going to have to be aware of tip number 3. And that's know when to speak up and know when to listen. You see, a leader is very good. I talked about it in the beginning, right? There are those leaders, okay, that talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk, because many of them are too busy talking all the time that they actually take no action or listen, right, to their team, etc. So what you want to do is, you want to know when, excuse me, got a little hair there bothering me. Know when to speak up and when to listen. You can work on your speaking skills all you want. But it's not just how you speak like a boss, but when you choose to do so. You see, and that's the key quality of leadership, is knowing when to insert yourself, knowing when to hang back. You see, because it depends on your audience. It really depends on your audience. See, you could be where at a function where you're expected to be the one speaking and the leader because everyone's there to listen to what you have to say. But you could also be at a function where there are other leaders or other top salespeople or whatever, and it may be best for you to sit back and listen more than speak. Many of you, have you been to places where people are clamoring to be the one that speaks the most? Many times, some of your best information and communication is done by sitting back, especially when there are a lot of alpha dogs there who all want to speak at the same time. But also, it's more important if you are in a leadership role where you have people, where you have a tribe or a team or that type of thing, that you listen to feedback in order to move forward, with your argument or with your talk. Okay. So the bottom line is, it's not just how you speak, okay, when it comes to being a boss or a leader, but when you choose to do so. You see, understanding context and picking up on the social clues in those situations are what Harvard Business Review argued is the key for people to actually go above and beyond and develop their leadership voice. All right? And it goes back to what I said. There are a lot of people who do an awful lot of talking, like that famous quote from The Wizard of Oz, all right? They do an awful lot of talking, but they have nothing to say. Do you follow what I'm saying? So many times, social context, okay, according to Harvard Business Review, is the key for people to develop their leadership voice in that context. So that's the third tip, all right? When you start to understand that there are times that you want to speak up and there are times you want to listen. Many times by listening, there are opportunities to speak up and it solidifies your boss talk or leadership role. But when you do speak up, make sure that you've gleaned, you've listened to your audience, as I talked about, you speak in threes and you get to the point. And so this morning, I just wanted to share with all of you one of those things that I find both fascinating and both very, very key in my success and the success of others who want to finally take control of their own life and business. And that is understanding that you do have to learn to communicate better. Communication is the key to your success in life and business. We hear it all the time. Communication in relationships is key, yet so few people do that. And when it comes to building and growing your internet and network marketing business, relationships are everything. So wouldn't it behoove you to learn how to be a better communicator, to learn how to have boss talk in your life and business, learn how to speak like a leader properly, even if that means that speaking is not having to be done all the time? And so once again, like I said, the 3 tips that I shared with you on how to become a leader of your own life and business and benefit others while you're doing it, those 3 simple steps were, number 1, get to the point. All right, make your case compelling. Let people know what you're going to speak about, then speak about it. And when you start to speak about it, understand, don't have crutches, all right, where you don't look like you're prepared. You're referencing all the time, right? The slides, okay? Make eye contact with your audience. Make a connection with your audience. Make sure that you do what every successful leadership speaker out there, business person, politician has done, and that's to learn and research speaking in threes. And I gave you the reference for that, which was a great video, a TED Talk done by our man, Simon Lancaster, called Speak Like a Leader. Great, great stuff. Go ahead and watch that. And like I said, the first time you say something, it's an incident. The second time you say it, it's a coincidence. The third time, it's a pattern. And subconsciously, we pick up on patterns. And that's why people go, oh, that was a great talk, because there was a pattern there. And finally, knowing when to speak up, all right? Because being a leader doesn't mean that you always have to be the person speaking in a speech-like situation. You can be a leader and utilize your communication skills in social settings as well when you learn how to speak up, all right, and when to listen. and understanding the context, okay, of those situations. And those are the 3 tips basically that I wanted to share with you this morning before I get into the gym there to help you start understanding that if you want to start to take control of your life and business, you've got to learn boss talk. You got to learn to be the boss of your own life. Step into that leadership role of your own life. And if it interests you to take that further and you want to work into a leadership role, a boss type role, in your internet and network marketing business, then you're going to have to step into that role of being a better communicator, being a better speaker, all right? And if you do that, it's based on one thing. It's your quest of knowledge. It's putting those things into practice and taking full advantage of all the knowledge that's out there from people that are very good at what they do. And I shared some of those tips and tricks and strategies with you. And if there's one thing that you should do today, if it interests you, at the very least, go and watch the TED Talk by Simon Lancaster. I think you'll be blown away and also learn quite a bit from that. So on that note, it's your boy Big. I appreciate all of you joining in this morning on this Bigg's Morning Motor Vehicle Musings about Boss Talk. Hope to catch you tomorrow on the live when I'm back once again. Peace, everyone. I'm out.